What's up and welcome back. I'm John Stark from ActTheMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic. And today, we're going to talk about the Garfield movie. This thing is currently on Netflix. It has audio description by Motion Picture Solutions, which Sony frequently uses. So it's that same voice, that same lady. She's been in like every Sony movie ever, I think. She just narrates everything. So, it is, it's been a little bit maligned, by critics. It didn't quite light up the fire at the box office. The voice cast here includes Chris Pratt as Garfield, Harvey Guillen from What We Do in the Shadows as Odie, even though Odie doesn't speak, he's credited as Odie. We've got Nicholas Hoult as John, the human, who at some points you're like, is Garfield, can they understand each other? Like, anyway, Samuel L. Jackson joins the Garfield franchise as Garfield's father. Ving Rhames is in this, Hannah Waddingham, Brett Goldstein, Cecily Strong, Bowen Yang. That's enough. So it has a very talented voice cast. And for my blind audience, I do have my purple baseball cap on backwards today, black sunglasses, and I'm wearing a Kirby shirt. Nice little pink Kirby from the video games. I think maybe this is a thing that the references don't land, but I had fun with Kirby as a kid, so I wear him as a shirt now. Anyway, the Garfield movie, which seems to be just an attempt to try to like revive a franchise, it's not really as bad as you would think, because it's not like offensively bad. I wasn't like offended by it. I wasn't just like, oh my god, oh my god, like during this movie. I just wasn't quite at that level. I would say probably easily the worst. I think the worst animation of the year is probably DreamWorks' abandoned Megamind sequel that they sent to Peacock, that they were just like, no, we're not even gonna bring back the original voice cast, we're just gonna hire some people. And it's like, why are you even making this? That's probably the most offensive sequel of everything this year. But this is just, I don't know, useless? Is that a word? I don't know. I don't know that the film would rather be called useless or bad. It's just kind of like, I don't, why? But basically Garfield is, we get an intro to Garfield and how he met John and gets adopted, and then how they adopt Odie. It's like super fast. Normal isn't even, they have to get to the plot, this super interesting plot that they came up with super fast. So we can't even really spend time with these characters, because my god, we have to get to this, banger plot that somebody was like, oh my god, guys, I have the best idea for a Garfield movie. Just wait. Just wait till I tell you. Oh my, you guys are gonna like die laughing. That's what I imagine that guy sounds like. Oh my god, guys. Just, are you sitting down? He seems like the kind of guy that tells you that and like makes sure that you are actually sitting down. Like, no, I can see that you're standing. I'm gonna wait to tell you until you're actually sitting down. You're not sitting yet. Okay, so imagine Garfield's at home, just, he's just being like Garfield, right? And he's like eating like pizza, but he's like eating like really fast. And then like all of a sudden, his dad shows up. Boom. Plot explosion. And then what? Well, and then obviously they go on an adventure together. I mean, like, when dad shows up, like, what else do you do? You go on an adventure. He's like, Dad, where have you been my whole life? And his dad's like, listen, son, learn yourself. The movie. That's basically, that's the greatest way to summarize this movie. It feels like that. It feels like it was written by a bunch of people who were like fighting an algorithm to come up with a plot for Garfield. They're just they're just like, I don't know. And some guy was like, I wonder if anybody else saw Peter Rabbit 2? Can I just pitch Peter Rabbit 2 here? Let's find out. And so he pitched Peter Rabbit 2, and they went with it. And they were like, oh my God, that sounds great. So let me get it. The father was a career criminal. So he has people like who he's like rubbed the wrong way and he like owes a debt to. And like Garfield is now in danger because of that and has to also become a career criminal in order to help his father and help himself. Cool. This feels like an original concept that's never been done before. Thank you so much, Todd. Thank you. I appreciate you. And now we have the Garfield movie. So it's obnoxious like that. It's just kind of like, it felt like, it's like, it's inconsequential. Like, it's just not, it's not bad. It's just like, the whole time I was like, what? I see glimmers of what could have been a good movie. The voice talent here is alone intriguing. You know, I was interested in just like, wow, okay, so we have all these people here doing what exactly? Like, what is it they're doing? But I don't know. It's just, it is so close to the plot of Peter Rabbit 2. Where Peter finds out that he has a dad and he's like, oh my God, Dad, you were a career criminal? Oh, yeah, I need your help, son. The movie. And guess what? There's not a Peter Rabbit 3. So that should have been like the indication to like people writing the Garfield movie. Like, this didn't work for Peter Rabbit very well. I don't think it's going to work for us. But yet we press on. And yet they persisted. They just kept going. They're like, no, this will be fine. We'll do it differently. He doesn't need a crew. He just needs his son. It'll be father-son bonding time. What are they stealing? Milk. Milk? They're stealing milk. That Garfield is known to love. He is always drinking milk. He's been an icon for milk. When they were doing milk mustaches, milk. It's what Garfield drinks. You know, I don't know what to expect because Garfield is sort of an aging franchise. It'd be like getting mad at somebody for not correctly adapting Felix the Cat at this point. And you're like, for what generation? Like, find me a 10-year-old who knows what Felix the Cat is. You know? Like, I honestly don't even know how many like people in the target demo for this even know who Garfield is. Like, to them, and we bicker about like, well, this doesn't feel like Garfield. It doesn't feel like the comic strip. It doesn't feel like Chris Pratt doesn't need to voice everything. And it's like, I don't know that kids cared, but I do think that kids were looking for something, I don't know, more exciting or original or funny or Garfield is such a tough sell because he's like for adults. If we're really being honest, Garfield is like for adults. His like, I hate Mondays thing doesn't really work well for kids. You know, I mean, like, because they equate that to school starting. They're like, oh my God, I have to go back to school. The weekend is over. But for like Garfield, Mondays is like, it translates You know, you see people with these like Garfield meme things, and it's like, I'm going to work, going, my weekend is over, and now I have to go back to the 9 to 5. So he represented so much more, which is why, the funny pages are included in newspapers. I mean, yeah, kids can read them, but a lot of those things translated to adults. Some of them exclusively to adults. Like, some of them really don't even make sense to kids when you're staring at like Doonesbury as like a 7-year-old, and you're like, I don't get it. Meanwhile, being handed to your dad, and your dad's like, yeah, I see what he did there. You know, it's just so. I think probably the mistake is they continue to brand Garfield as being exclusively for kids, and it doesn't quite work because his style of sarcasm, um, really just, it needs to attract adult audiences too. So they needed somebody here who was familiar with how to navigate a film that brands itself to everybody. And this film doesn't feel like it brands itself to really anybody at all. It just kind of exists. They just kind of like made a Garfield movie to keep the franchise rights. You know, like Sony maybe bought them from, what did Fox make it last time? Maybe Fox lost the rights and then Sony picked them up and they sat on it for a while and they're like, what are we going to do with this? Well, if we don't make a movie, we got to give up the rights. We should probably make a movie. Okay. I think that's how Fantastic happened, is basically they had to make a movie. This was also before Fox got bought by Disney. But they were going to lose the rights back to Marvel if they didn't make a movie. So they had to. They didn't have a choice. So they did. And that's how we got Fantastic. And I think that's also probably how we got the Garfield movie. I'm going to guess Sony probably picked up the rights and sat on it for a while and didn't quite come up with a Garfield movie. And then they just kind of like, we need a Garfield movie. Any kind of Garfield movie, I don't care. Make it happen. And now we have this. It's not really funny, but it's also not really bad. It's not really anything. It's just kind of like, I sat there the whole time. It's the kind of film where you can sit through it. You'll check your phone a couple times. You know, you'll be like, oh, what's going on? Did I get tagged on anything on Facebook? No. 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 No any text messages. Okay. What's going on in the movie? Oh, they're still here. Okay. All right. Well, cool. So it's a moderately decent waster of time as a film, though. It's below average. It's not great, but it's also not the worst animated film I've seen this year. And for some people who were releasing it early, like for the first 6 months of the year, they were like, these are the worst films I've seen. So a couple of people put Garfield movie. I'm like, y'all didn't see enough movies. Just straight up, y'all didn't see enough movies. So yeah, I love the term nothing burger now. This is a nothing burger. This is just, is Chris Pratt bad? No, he's not bad. He's just a weird casting. And comparing him to Bill Murray felt more like Garfield. Bill Murray felt like he was ready more for what Garfield was, which was this sarcastic brand of humor. And he also played really well into anybody who had watched Garfield and Friends, because he also kind of felt like that brand of humor for that adaptation. So it felt like we had a common theme running through those things. But it's been so long. It's been 20 years since Bill Murray did Garfield. So they were just like, kids don't know who this is. Literally, he could have been voiced by Bowen Yang. I don't think anybody would have cared. They could have flipped Bowen Yang and Chris Pratt. I don't think anybody would have noticed. The kids, I don't think they care. I don't. The little things we get picky about, Nermal shows up like in the credits. And like, I noticed because in the audio description, they had to point out who Nermal was and like what he looked like, because they couldn't even be bothered to fit him into the actual plot of the movie. So he comes over for like, in the credit sequence, they have all these things that they're showing that happen over the passage of time. Sort of like how in movies, I've always hated this, by the way, when we just like have a dance sequence that like feeds us out of a movie that just goes on forever. They're like, we had a coherent movie, now we're gonna dance. And it's not even a dance movie. It's just like, this is the movie. This is the moment where we feel like we're gonna dance through the credits. Oh yeah, we're gonna dance. It kind of feels like that, except for they're just showing like, you like random things that Garfield will continue to do for the rest of his life. One of them is have a birthday party, and like Normal shows up, and they're like, and the audio description had to point out who Normal was for the fans. And I was like, what's the point? What is the point? So any standout voice casting? I don't know. They're all fine. It's a lot of good voice choices. Here, yeah, I'm not gonna beleaguer Chris Pratt. He's fine. He's of this generation. He's voicing everything for some reason, and I like Chris Pratt. I'm not gonna beat that into the ground, but I probably would have picked somebody else for Garfield, considering he's Mario. Like, he doesn't need to be everything. So just give somebody else that opportunity to be Garfield. You know, I mean, there are thousands of actors, so Chris Pratt should not have been the immediate go-to for everything. Just anywho, audio description did a pretty good job of describing all the little things that happened along the way, and the action, the goofiness, and the bouncing around, and Garfield's eating. He eats things like a paper shredder. So he just like inhales food super quick. Yeah, I actually like the audio description to this. I can always tell that it's Motion Picture Solutions because it sounds the same. It's like this. It's the exact same sound as Gran Turismo. So I don't know that Garfield and Gran Turismo needed the exact same sound to it. But this lady that does Motion Picture Solutions' narration, whoever she is, she never gets credited. I don't even stay for the end of the credits because every time I've done it, it just says Motion Picture Solutions. I don't know. It's just, she's fine for kids' movies. I think we could have probably been more engaging, but it was enough. It's like, nothing about this film strikes me as being enough to be mad at it, but also I wouldn't necessarily tell you to run out and watch it. So it's on Netflix if you want to, I don't think it's nearly as offensively bad as many people think it is. So I'm going to give the Garfield movie a C-. I wouldn't give it it's not going to get like a fresh or anything like that from me on Rotten Tomatoes, but at the same time, I've seen worse. So that's it. Anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing, and I will see you guys on the other side.